Welcome back to News Talk. Get your allergy questions ready. Dr. Talal Insuli joins us at the bottom of the hour. He'll have information. This is Alyssa Silverman. Dr. Insuli will have information on the latest treatments, and we'll be taking your calls. Joining us now, D.C. Councilwoman Alyssa Silverman, an independent. She serves at large. We almost made you an allergy expert.
I am not good at answering allergy questions, Bruce, and I don't suffer from them either.
Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
Good to see you. Welcome back.
Good to see you, too.
Thanks very much for your time. Our first issue is one we discussed last time, and the timing is great because there's a hearing tomorrow on legislation that would advance the Wizards, this project that would be a Wizards practice facility, the Mystics home court, and a concert venue. You and some of your colleagues have a concern about the cost and how much taxpayers would be on the hook for if costs run wild.
Right. So the hearing tomorrow is on who should pay cost overruns on the practice facility that we're building for the Wizards. Should we pay for it? Should we write a blank check for this? Or should we hold to a firm budget, be disciplined about our budgeting, and then if there are unforeseen costs that Monumental Sports, Ted Leonsis, as the owner of the Wizards, should pay those costs. But my biggest point, Bruce, is that we need to stick to a budget, because we have a lot of needs in our city. And we heard about some of those needs last night from Mayor Bowser in her State of the District address. We want to invest more in our kids and in our schools. We want to make sure that folks who work in this city can live in this city, that we build affordable housing. We need to raise wages to do that. But those things all cost money. And that's why I guess I'm taking a new role on the council, being like the penny-pinching progressive. You know, in that we need to hold to our budget so we can do all the great things we want to do. But if we, if costs go wild, if we write a blank check for the Wizards practice facility, then we're not going to have money to invest in Garfield Elementary School in Ward 8. And we're not going to have a safe and reliable metro system because we don't have money for that. We need to watch our dollars. That's what this bill is really all about.
Do you accept the basic premise that this facility should be a public-private partnership where the Monumental pays some and the city pays some? I mean, are there...
Right now, the bulk is mostly public, Bruce.
Okay.
I think more than 90% of the cost, 91 or 92% of the costs are being paid for by the district taxpayer.
And in terms of the benefits that we can reasonably expect from this project, are you comfortable with the use of public money? That was what I was sort of trying to get at a moment ago.
I don't think that it is the best investment, but that's not the debate, Bruce. We are spending $50 million to build this practice facility, and I'm not debating that issue. I'm not. What I want to do is to safeguard district taxpayers. We don't have a good track record of delivering things on time and on budget in our city. And then we have this sort of like, oh my gosh, I'm so shocked approach. How did this happen? Well, it happened because we didn't set a firm budget. The project costs weren't transparent. We didn't hold ourselves and our contractors accountable, and so then when it goes over budget, we just keep spending. We just keep spending. And the point I really want to emphasize, Bruce, is that we're not the Treasury. We're not the U.S. Treasury. We can't print money. We can't run a deficit like the federal government. So we need to make sure our books balance. And when we spend more in one area, that means it's going to come from somewhere else. And that somewhere else could be schools, it could be transportation, could be recreation centers we want to build, all kinds of things. So we need to be careful about our costs.
How many of your colleagues are on board with this notion that taxpayers should be protected against cost overruns, and what sort of reaction have you gotten from the Bowser administration and from Monumental, from the Leonsis team?
5 colleagues of mine co-introduced the bill that I introduced earlier I believe this month. And the reaction I've gotten has been interesting. It's been, well, Alyssa, why, I think understandably we have underinvested in Ward 8. And this project is in Ward 8, an area that has not seen the kind of economic renaissance that we've seen, especially west of the river. So I am certainly interested in investing in Ward 8. I just want to make sure that investment is maximized, because Ward 8 residents can't have a bad return on their investment. So the reaction I've gotten is, well, you know, I think the chairman of Events DC called something like a cap on costs like arbitrary. I mean, that's calling budgeting arbitrary. I mean, we expect of our residents that they're going to budget, that they are going to be responsible about their expenses, and there are big repercussions if people aren't responsible about their expenses. And I think we need to be responsible too.
What benefits do you think this project brings? I mean, are people going to go, if people go to a Mystics game, I think there's a chance they'll eat at the arena. I know there's always a lot of talk about how the bars and restaurants in the neighborhood will flourish because people will stop by on their way to or from an event, and that might happen, but it's always good to live in the real world. And I'm just wondering, what do you feel as an at-large member, with you know, the whole city has voted for you and elected you.
I wish the whole city, next time the whole city will vote for me.
You know, what do you believe?
Well, I want firm, we have a lot of spongy numbers right now about what kind of benefit this will bring. And I do want, and I encourage folks to come to the hearing tomorrow. So it's 3 o'clock at the Wilson Building. And it will be, I want to hear not only about their thoughts on cost overruns, but on what we should be expecting as investors in the Wizards. Because we are investors in them. We are putting up $50 million of our money to help the Wizards, to make their players better. You know, things that go into practice facilities are things like hydrotherapy pools and cryosaunas, and that, you know, will help John Wall jump a little higher. And, you know, and I'm a sports fan. That's the thing, Bruce. I'm a sports fan. So, and I know that sports is one of the common threads for our city, right? It's something we can talk about when we can't talk about anything else. Something I can talk about with my dad when I can't talk about anything else is how the Nats and Orioles are going to do this year. But we need to have firm commitments. So to get back to your question, which is that, you know, I see numbers like 800 jobs will be created. Well, are those 800 9-to-5 permanent jobs or living wage jobs that folks are going to be able to raise their families on? I don't know. You know, I actually did work for the Orioles that's how I funded my college education. I worked for Aramark, which was the concessionaire for the Orioles, right? That's seasonal employment, right. And it's based on when the Orioles or the Mystics are going to be in town. So you can't count on going to work every day. And a lot of that work is at night, which is going to be challenging for a lot of our residents with kids who want work, because then you're going to have to find childcare. So these are all kinds of questions I would like to have Events DC spell out a little bit more, as well as Monumental. Well, how many jobs? How can we hold you to that? What kind of, you know, real economic development are we going to see? Were
there any dire predictions about what would happen down the road if a majority of the council were to follow your lead and say, we're on board for the project, but we're not writing a blank check. We're happy with $50 million, but we're not happy going beyond? Were there dire predictions about?
Well, here's my thought on that, Bruce, which is that if
have you been told, oh, you're jeopardizing the project, or oh, it won't be as good?
I don't think we're at that point yet, but here's my concern is that if Monumental is so concerned about cost overruns that they would walk away, then we should be concerned about what is the risk to our taxpayers. You know, how much is this really going to cost? And, you know, $50 million, Bruce, where did that number come from? That's another thing I want to talk about in the hearing, because these practice facilities have been built in other cities, and the costs vary greatly, I think, from $23 million to $80 million. So that says to me, well, you know, are we sure this is going to cost $50 million? Then could it run to $80 million? We need to understand. We need a more transparent process. One more point, Bruce, is that this practice facility has escaped and circumvented sort of the normal legislative process. There's been one roundtable on it, and there's never been a vote. So, you know, what this legislation does is give our residents, and if you're supportive of the project, come out. Tell me why you're supportive of it, what hopes and dreams you have for the practice facility.
Tomorrow, 3 o'clock, Wilson
Tomorrow,
Building.
3 o'clock at the Wilson Building, and it will be an opportunity, I think, to make this project more transparent and accountable.
One thing we haven't, I want to shift gears, we have a couple minutes left. I want to ask you about something that we on the show haven't had a chance to talk about yet, and that is the city's win on budget autonomy.
Yes.
Can you talk about how that came about? Can you sort of summarize for us what that means? Because this is something that the city has fought for and arguably has been deserving of for quite a long time.
It's a terrific win, and I actually want to thank Mayor Bowser, who actually changed the mayor's position on this suit, as well as Chairman Mendelson, who's been a real champion of budget autonomy. This came about because voters voted for it. There was a referendum. I know that you live in the district, Bruce, and I think over 80% of voters in the April 2013 election voted for budget autonomy, which means that we will be allowed, we raise most of our funds ourselves, and we should be allowed to spend our funds as district voters see fit.
So that if there's ever an impasse or stalemate at the federal level, that the district is not harmed or impinged
we
in
don't
terms
have
of the functioning of
congressmen from
services.
Maryland saying what we can and cannot do with our district dollars.
Gotcha.
We raise our tax, I think more than 7 out of 10 tax dollars are local, from our local funds, and then a lot of the federal funds are formula funds that every state gets. And why should, you know, a congressman from Kansas or the Eastern Shore of Maryland be able to tell district residents what they can do with their tax dollars? So it's a tremendous victory, and once again, I think the chairman should get big kudos.
One quick question on Metro. What was your reaction to Metro shutting down for the day, and how do you think the day went? Were you surprised that the impact didn't seem greater?
Well, I think that I think it sent a message, Bruce, and I think that the general manager wanted to send a message not only to his own staff, but to the jurisdictions and to riders that safety is his #1 priority. I'm a Metro rider, so I appreciated it. It was inconvenient, Bruce, and I was concerned about folks who don't have the ability to either stay home, you know, who work in jobs where they need to show up. But I do think it was a necessary inconvenience, and I do hope that we will make the investments and have the focus on Metro, because it is so vital to our economy and our communities.
Alyssa Silverman is an independent at-large member of the District of Columbia Council. Thanks very much.
That's it, Bruce.
We've got the doctor standing by. It's
that's
allergy
true.
season,
We have
right?
a lot of allergy questions. Looks like you have a few.
Thank you for saying that. Thanks for coming. Good
Thank you very much,
See you
Bruce.
again very soon. We'll take a break here. An update on the hour's top stories straight ahead. Then, how to battle spring allergies.